Back to it now as we continue the conversation. So many things happening at the same time. It's a really intense news cycle, to say the least. And so I wanted to bring you on, well, apparently somebody who grew up in my neighborhood close enough. The chair of the House Republican Conference is Congresswoman Lisa McClain of Michigan's 10th Congressional District from 2021 to 23. And now it's the 9th because of realignment. But she's with me now, Congresswoman. Great to have you here. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So much going on. I sit there and I marvel at the now 79-year-old Donald Trump because, look, I get tired following him. The people in his circle get tired following him, just keeping up. I mean, he's in the Oval Office sometimes at 5 in the morning, sometimes till 11 o'clock at night. He'll talk to the media at 1 o'clock in the morning on Air Force One. It's pretty intense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very intense. And in fact, we laugh about it. I'll come out of a meeting and there'll be a gaggle of reporters and it'll be like, oh my gosh, did you hear what President Trump just did? And it's like, no, I mean, as the messaging arm for the Republican conference, it's hard to keep up with him. But he's on a mission, that's for sure.
He is. All right, a lot of very serious things in the headlines. Let's start with the war back and forth between Israel and Iran. I think most people are on the page that we can take out Iran's nuclear weapons capabilities. That's what Israel is doing. It seems that we are helping in some fashion. There's also some conversation from the Situation Room this week that maybe we'll get more directly involved, but that's not a particularly popular position with some supporters and voters of Donald Trump. Where do you think we are in that conversation?
You know, I think it's on the table. However, I think the president has been very clear that he would prefer to stay out of it, to take a defensive posture, to support Israel, but not have directly be involved on the offense. But listen, at the end of the day, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. He has been extremely clear on that. His hope is to make a deal. He's continuing the negotiations to try and get Iran to make a deal. But the ball's in Iran's court right now, and we'll see what they do. Our hope is that the president, who is a beautiful negotiator, can get this done without any more offensive attacks, and Iran will come to their senses. But hope's not a real good strategy, Steve.
Yeah, hope's not a strategy at all. But I am hopeful. Hopeful is just a state of mind. I am hopeful we can get through this without the United States getting directly involved. Certainly not boots in the ground. I think a lot of people would not be pleased with that outcome. However, it is safe to say that we are at a closer point since we've been since 1979 of Tehran changing regimes. I mean, they are the weakest they've been since they took the 52 American hostages for 444 days, something I remember clearly. You do as well, I'm sure. Yeah. It's an important opportunity, potentially. And so when people were saying we're on the verge of World War III, I said, no, we're on the verge of Donald Trump getting something done that has not been possible since 1979. What would you say?
Right. I take that same approach. I say we're on the verge of peace in the Middle East, right? If you look at where China's been, where Russia has been, Iran right now doesn't have a lot of support. Now, we want to make sure that it stays that way, but they're not extremely supportive of Iran right now. They haven't come to their defense. They haven't made any boastful statements. I think that's a clear signal. But I am with you. I don't think we're on the verge necessarily of World War III. We could be. Listen, I'm a realist, but at the end of the day, we also could be on the verge of peace in the Middle East.
And that would be an extension of the Abraham Accords. It'd be an extension of what Donald Trump was pushing during his first term and now his second term. And so, yeah, that would be the natural outcome of where we are. And hopefully that happens. Meanwhile, he continues to try to work with Ukraine and Russia. No real traction there. We'll see how that plays out, and we'll keep an eye on it. But I want to shift to domestic issues, if we could. Sure. The one big, beautiful bill. You guys passed it out, 214, 212. A few Republicans went the other way. I get it. They're in complicated districts, shall we say, in places like New York. I understand. But the bill got through. It's in the Senate. A lot of conversation about what the spending levels are. Where do you think that conversation is now? Is the Senate going to get this done?
Yeah, the Senate has to get this done. And I say this all the time. I would not want to be the one that stands in President Trump's way of getting his agenda that 77 million Americans elected him to do. We did our job. We passed it out of the House. we were able to thread a very small eye of the needle with our very diverse conference. I think we put a very good product on the floor that is an investment in growth, right? We want to reignite the economy. We keep taxes low. I mean, think of in Michigan for 1 minute, Steve. If we didn't pass this bill, over 600,000 small businesses just here in Michigan would see their tax rate go up to 43%. That's horrible. And I think one of the biggest things that the Democrats try to lie about is we are actually putting programs in place to secure Medicaid. So we were able to pass a very conservative, not perfect bill. My message for the Senate has and will continue to be touch very lightly on the bill. It is a good bill. It's actually a great bill, I think. Pass it, send it back over, and let's get this done for the American people.
I look at some of the other things that have been said about Donald Trump in the first 150 days of his second term, give or take. The tariffs, we're going to create all this economic destruction. The tariffs, we're going to create massive inflation. None of that's turned out to be true. Inflation's at 2.4%. The jobs numbers have outperformed 3 or 4 months in a row. Gas is up a little, but that's because of the war between Israel and Iran primarily. It's at $3.18. It's still 50 cents lower than it was just 1 year ago when Joe Biden was in office. Oil's gone up a bit. But I look at the economy as a whole and I say, I'm pretty optimistic. As I look at the numbers here in front of me today, I'm pretty optimistic. You?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. I mean, Steve, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. What about eggs? What happened to the egg prices, right? The Democrats were, oh my God, eggs are... you don't hear about that anymore. The fear mongering has absolutely got to stop. And just take a look at what President Trump is trying to do with the tariffs. He is trying to level a very unbalanced playing field for America. Over 80 countries have already come to the table to renegotiate their trade deals. That is a good thing for us. Yes. And I will also say, people in my district, which is heavily manufacturing and agriculture, actually see it through the lens of job creation, which is a good thing. We want to bring more jobs back to this country. So I think the president's economic plan is working, and it's not my opinion. All you have to do is look at the facts, Steve, and the economy is going in the right direction for the American people.
Here's another fact. Not a single illegal release in the United States in May. 64,000 last May. That's a remarkable achievement. Remarkable.
Think about that. Think about how much safer we are, and think of under the old administration. President Biden said we needed Congress to act. No, we just needed a new president, right? And whether you love Donald Trump or hate Donald Trump, personally, I think you know what the camp that I am in. If he tells you he's going to do something like secure the border, he's not messing around. He's securing the border.
He's going to get it done.
He's going to get it done.
Yeah, and he has, and there's evidence of that over and over again. I'm with Congresswoman Lisa McClain. She represents Michigan's 9th Congressional District. She's in her 3rd term in Congress, and this is the Steve Gruber Show. I want to continue now, Congresswoman, and I want to talk about some of the illegals that came through during Joe Biden's time. 30,000 Chinese nationals or more. We don't really know. That's the problem with what happened with almost 20 million people, according to some estimates, coming into the country. What we do know is this. Coming in and out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, are college students, like many college towns in America. Some of those recently caught trying to bring in fungus to the United States that could, according to the people that I talked to in agriculture, could have wiped out half the American corn, wheat, rice, and barley crops. Half could be destroyed. It seems to me the Chinese are targeting us on all levels, but one of the places they're certainly targeting us, they're going after American farms, are the Chinese. How dangerous is this?
It's extremely dangerous. And I say this all the time. The Chinese are not our friend. The CCP is not our friend. They are coming after us militarily. They're coming after us economically, and they're coming after us educationally. So anybody who thinks that China is our friend is gravely, gravely mistaken. And yes, they are coming after us agriculturally, no question. But how they're doing it is they're coming through our universities. We have got to do a much better job of vetting these individuals. And last I checked, there's long waiting lists for American kids to get into these universities. So, Steve, why wouldn't we fill our universities with American students as opposed to Chinese students?
That's a great question. My question is this. In addition to the Chinese bringing in these pathogens, we have allowed foreigners to buy land in America, farmland, for a very long time. The Chinese have somewhere around 500,000 acres of American farmland. The state of South Dakota got rid of that provision. Should we, as America, allow China or Chinese citizens to own American land?
Let me think about that for a minute. No is the short answer. And here's why I say that. We can't trust them. Now, I realize that people are individual property rights, but China is not our friend. The other thing, would China let us buy a bunch of land? No, they wouldn't. Let's take a look at not only that they're buying the land, Steve, but let's take a look at where they're buying the land and what they're using that land for. They're buying it next to army bases. Interesting. Why would they do that? I don't believe in coincidences, and that's exactly what is happening. So I'm on a full stop right now. Right now, China's not our friend. There's no reason that they need to buy land, especially farmland in the United States of America. I don't trust them, and I'll share with you, the farmers in my district don't want them as their neighbors.
Yeah, my question is this. If China tries to destroy American agriculture, create a crisis in the American food system, isn't that an act of war?
Well, it's a very good thing to consider, and I would say food security is national security. So
Yes.
I would agree with you on that statement. Listen, we feed the bulk of the world, right?
Yeah.
We have got to make sure that our food is sustainable and that we can produce it. And look at what's happening right now. We just had some students, like you said, at the University of Michigan, unfortunately, come in with pathogens to try and harm our food supply. Gee, do you think we should protect ourselves from that? I say yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, what should the punishment be for those students caught trying to poison the American food supply? That'd be the real question. How should they be dealt with?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, they have to have some strict and severe consequences, and they need to leave the country immediately and then never be allowed in. But I think the problem is a little bit deeper than that, Steve. We have got to do a better job of vetting these individuals. Let's start with the mere fact China is not our friend. The students coming over, we have got to vet these students. And I don't understand why we are opening our universities up to this. Our universities are opening us up to these liabilities when we have American kids on a waiting list that can't get in to our own universities.
Yeah, and it's not just the universities.
Someone has to connect those dots.
It's not just the universities. At the NIH, for example, they have more than 1,000 Chinese nationals as scientists on staff at the NIH. These are all things of great concern, then we're going to keep an eye on it. I got one more thing I want to ask you about. Speaking of China and their infiltration of the United States, we have records now from Kash Patel and the FBI that show that the tens of thousands of driver's licenses that were seized at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport in August of 2020, that was part of an overall scheme by the Chinese to get fake IDs to people living in America to cast ballots for Joe Biden in 2020, which just might explain how he got to 81 million votes. Mass mail-in ballots from a virus that came from Wuhan, China, then driver's licenses that were mass-produced fraudulently using, however, real names and real addresses. I'm sure you've seen the stories. How concerned are you about that infiltration?
I'm extremely concerned. Listen, last Congress, I sat on the Oversight Committee. We know that the Biden family was corrupt. We know the Democrats will lie, cheat, and steal, to weaponize the Department of Justice to go after their political opponent. You know, sounds like a third world country to me. So I'm extremely concerned about this. We have got to restore trust with the American people in their number one right, and that is to vote as an American citizen, to have free and fair elections. This is a big problem. I applaud Kash Patel for uncovering this. We passed the SAVE Act in the House the Senate needs to do their job and the states need to do their job to make sure that we can provide fair and secure elections to the American people and provide some trust with them. So to me, big deal. And once again, another reason, China's in the middle of a nefarious act. Shocker. That's a big surprise.
Yeah, there they are trying to influence the election. I could never figure out how we got to 81 million. I always thought it was about the mass mail-in ballots. I think I've been proven right. We talked about it a lot here in the program. Not the machines, mass mail-in ballots, some of which may have been manufactured in China, but we'll see how far Kash Patel can ferret that out.
Steve, I'm hard-pressed to think that Joe Biden got more votes than Obama.
I would have to agree with you on that, or just about anybody else. Lisa McClain, greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. This is the Steve Gruber Show.